New talk surrounding Starfield, including its first major update, and if you thought the day before was bad, wait until you hear about the Quinfall. We're going to be getting into all of that and more, so greetings and salutations everyone, it's me, AZTV, and this is AZTV News, Episode 3. Hey, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the content in general, please subscribe, and if you'd like to find me on streams or social media, all the links to that are in the description below. And now, with the preamble out of the way, let's get into it. Happy New Year, friendos. Hope your 2024 is going better than mine, as my entire PC died. I lost 4 of my 6 SSDs and they had to be completely reformatted, but I'm back at it. It's been a while since the last episode and a lot has happened within that time, so let's play catch up real quick. A newly Microsoft-owned Activision Blizzard can finally rejoice as former CEO Bobby Kotick, after over 30 years, has finally clocked out. Kotick oversaw record profits for the company, but was also marred by a myriad of controversy. And now that he's gone, everyone can get mad at Phil Spencer when the next Call of Duty game inevitably sucks. Film director Zack Snyder wants to make a Fortnite movie for some odd reason. I don't think he fully understands the implication of what he's advocating for here. Think of this, a theater full of preteen yappers just waiting to jump up and do their favorite Fortnite dance.
Just move! If you guys know it, just move. It's all I want to see, some movement. I'm not seeing enough movement.
As much as I do enjoy some zero bills, I'd much rather chew broken glass than be in that movie theater. Twitch basically went full mask off about the inequities in their moderation and in their fight for social justice and the cowardice they have toward creating any rules that may disproportionately target women. Twitch decided to allow what they referred to as artistic nudity. And then a bunch of people drew furry porn and hentai. The advertisers were not fans of this decision. The moderation team didn't seem to be informed about the decision at all. So a bunch of people got banned for a few days. Twitch rolled back almost every change that they made, and our reward for going through this roller coaster drama was we got to see Boogie2988's butt naked ass. There, now you're all caught up. It feels like Starfield came and went in a flash, but I guess if we're being honest, all Bethesda games really take a backseat to Skyrim's longevity. But Starfield felt particularly short-lived. That could be because it launched alongside some massive titles, namely Baldur's Gate 3, Armored Core 6, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, but it was also met with an underwhelming reception. Personally, I enjoyed Starfield. I really liked the game, but also I went into it with very tempered expectations. I wasn't expecting Bethesda to all of a sudden become these innovative game design gods. And I also wasn't expecting Creation Engine to all of a sudden produce Unreal Engine results. But regardless of how I felt about the game, I'd be lying if I said that the opinion that I had was echoed by the majority. So why am I talking about Starfield today? Well, it looks like Bethesda is ready to start the aftercare process with their first major patch. While they didn't get too specific on the details, in a series of tweets, Bethesda did lay out the general goals of the patch. There was a bunch of bug fixes, particularly fixes to some of the progression blocking bugs for major quest lines, such as the Eye of the Storm quest and the Into the Unknown quest. Additionally, there were some stability tweaks, the addition of widescreen support, and graphical improvements to things like textures, lighting, and shadows. There was also things that I wouldn't consider all that notable, such as improvements on sun disk geometry, planet ring shadows, which I'll admit, they do look pretty cool, and there were fixes to outpost bugs and ship bugs. As I stated earlier, we don't know the full details. Those will probably be released once the patch goes into beta. I think it's good that Bethesda is kind of rolling with the punches and pushing through all of the negative feedback and continuing to work on the game and making it better. I know these patch notes aren't particularly exciting, but if there's one thing we know, it's that games can bounce back when developers stick to them and listen to player feedback. And speaking of player feedback, I wish it was something that Bethesda would have solicited during the development cycle, because apparently, once upon a time, Starfield may have been a much more interesting game. A data miner recently uncovered an early form of the star map. This star map shows space travel that might be a little bit more perilous. On the right side, you can see the fuel consumption. I only bring up the fuel because once Todd Howard pointed out in an interview that it was possible to run out of fuel and get stranded, and then they removed that from the game because they thought it was a fun killer. There were more interesting things such as the solar radiation and micrometeoroids. The radiation would cause hull damage, and the micrometeoroid had a potential to cause a catastrophic stop, whatever that means. The reason I think this type of stuff would be interesting is because it adds a level of threat to the game. Unfortunately, outside of the very early game and a few ship battles, Starfield rarely ever feels dangerous. Even in the moments where you have danger indicators, like say redlining CO2, having your health decrease, you come to find out you actually can't die from running. And just like that, the danger's gone. I really wish Starfield and all Bethesda games had Fallout 4's survival mode. Give the casual players the Care Bear experience they want, that's fine, but give the players who want a challenge something more than enemies hit harder and have more HP and become sponges. And now I want to know your thoughts. Are you one of the brave few who dared to actually enjoy Starfield? Are you still playing? If so, how do you feel about the information on the first major patch? And how do you feel about a more dangerous Starfield experience? Let me know in the comments. And now, let's take a big hit of that MMOpium. Now this is basically the main story of this video, and there is a lot to unpack, so bear with me. Do you remember the absolute dumpster fire that was the day before its release? If not, check out the previous episode of AZTV where I discussed some of the launch problems. Shortly before, the game shut down, got pulled from Steam, and the company behind it completely dissolved. Well, Varric Technology saw that amazing shit show and said, hold my beer. Today's story revolves around a game called the Quinfall. This is meant to be an MMO RPG that has all the things. Action combat, PvE, PvP, raiding, world bosses, in-depth crafting systems, all that set in the largest game world ever made alongside some top-of-the-line graphics. Are you gooning yet? All that stuff sounds awesome, and what was even more awesome was while doing research for January's upcoming game releases, the Quinfall was set to release on January 30th, 2024, according to their Steam page. This has since changed, but the internet never forgets. While this may not be a red flag in and of itself, it certainly didn't make me feel better about the project. I actually tweeted about my mistrust of this project back in September and reiterated my concerns in December. Now, you might be thinking, a release date getting pushed isn't anything out of the norm. In fact, it's par for the course these days, and you'd be absolutely correct. But the event actually wasn't delayed, it was just changed. Instead of a release, it's now a closed beta that is under NDA, and because that release date is so close, all of the internet sleuths had their ears perked up. Who are these devs? What have they made? How are they funded? Is this a scam? Well, strap in, we're gonna dig into it, and I'll let you come to your own conclusions and give you my opinion. Varric Technology Incorporated. This is a small Turkish developer team. Keep that in mind when we're looking at some of the English translations of some of the things that we're going to see. A lot of the information that we're about to bring up comes to us via a mod in their official Discord server. Their stated goals are essentially to create games centered around using modern technology in order to lighten the load and enhance the experience. Additionally, they claim to have their own AI tech that saves them a significant amount of time in the process of creating the game's universe. Now, I don't know if this AI suite is something proprietary to Varric specifically, or if they just have the licensing for something that they're going to use in the game. That aside, this just sounds like procedural generation of some sorts, maybe alongside something like AI voice acting. Now, to be fair, there isn't anything wrong with this. It just usually ends up being a somewhat more diluted generic experience and won't have the usual depth, sophistication, or complexity, or even immersion targeting that you would get from a handcrafted experience. No Man's Sky did some really cool things with this type of tech, so we know it's not impossible to make something compelling through procedural generation. The Quinfall actually isn't Valric's first project. They were also responsible for an MMO called Kara Online. They claim to have developed the game for a year and got it to a playable beta stage before dropping the project. The reason I bring this up is because I find it concerning that they dropped the project in beta. This makes me think they're the kind of devs that might get easily distracted by shiny things, and that'll make them struggle to see a project to its end. If I'm being charitable here, Kara Online looked a bit dated even for its time, so I imagine seeing what modern game engines are capable of, this made them want to invest their time into creating something cooler and more modern. Now, let's talk funding. MMOs are very expensive to make. We're talking the biggest MMOs on the market run into the hundreds of millions of dollars to develop. Hell, Star Citizen is pushing almost $1 billion in its development, and we still don't even know if that game's ever releasing after over 10 years. So normally, you need investors with deep pockets and a lot of faith in your project to make an MMO. But here's the thing, it's possible a lot of these costs could be alleviated by modern technology. Game engines like Unreal or Unity are designed to be incredibly modular, meaning they're made in such a way that the pieces to create a game are able to be added, removed, and modified with relative ease. And with things like Unreal Marketplace or the Unity Asset Store, you can spend a small amount of money for the pieces and then put them all together yourself. And if you don't care about your game lacking originality, you're probably saving yourself a lot of money compared to the AAA studios. It is believed that Kara Online was a proof of concept, and as such, it was used as a tool to spark investor interest in the MMO space, that investor being a company called H2O Investment. More on them later. All of that led to Valric creating what is now known as the Quinfall. But the Quinfall is mostly composed of store-bought assets. This is something that was brought to light months ago by a YouTuber named Nuyen in his video, The Quinfall, How This Game Might Not Exist. It's a great video if you want the comparison of what's in the trailer that they presented versus what's in the asset store. I'll be honest, I don't really care much about store-bought assets in a game. If you're someone who wants to make a game and you have no artistic talent, you have no idea how to use Maya or Blender, you have no idea how to animate, no idea how to compose music, no idea how to code, well, you could either spend the thousands of hours you would have to spend trying to learn those skills, or you can hire people if you have that kind of money, or if you think you can put something together that you think people will enjoy, you could just buy the assets from the asset store and try to make something cool. The person who designs the assets get their cut, the platform gets their cut, and you don't have to learn an entirely new skill set. Sure, asset flips exist, I'm not denying that, but I think overall the asset store provides far more good than it does harm. Now, at this point, we have some oddities, but we don't have compelling evidence that the Quinfall is a scam or even an asset flip. Thus far, we've really only established that Valric is an overzealous and probably overambitious company, and they're probably cutting corners in an attempt to make something they think is going to be cool. And at this point, they haven't extracted any money from fans, but neither did the day before until the day of release. And if the story stopped here, I'd feel comfortable buying the game, but you can probably tell from my verbiage and tone, the story does not end here. In fact, this is where things get real sus. Our faithful hero Nuyen actually puts out a second video. This was after the first video started getting traction and got viewed by people such as Asmongold and Force Gaming. The first half of this video is more or less the same as his first video, but the second half, at around 10 minutes 40 seconds, things start to get a little strange. Nuyen points out a thread in the MMORPG subreddit called "Be Careful of Quinfall the Day After V2." If you go to this thread, there is a lot to dig through. But in the spirit of brevity here are some of the quick takeaways that I found. Remember that game Kara Online? Remember it only ever got the beta? Well, that beta not only had a cash shop, but in the cash shop, there's an ad for something called Buy No Game. Buy No Game is a real money trading website for a multitude of other online games, including Valorant, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, and even Black Desert Online. Now, think about that. This is a beta with a cash shop that has a built-in ad to a real money trading website. That is a huge red flag. At the very least, we can expect the Quinfall to have horrible microtransactions. And since that video caught so much traction, Whalestork has been essentially deleting the existence of Kara Online from the internet, and things still get weirder. Whalestork had a now removed picture of what appeared to be the inside of their office space with their logo on the wall, but it turns out this was just a stock photo and they just modified it and put their logo onto it. Again, after this blew up, they've since changed the picture on their website. But the internet never forgets. Obviously, with things ramping up, the allegations of the game being a scam start to roll in. When responding to the allegations of being a scam, Whalestork essentially said that the game can't be a scam because they haven't extracted money from customers. Well, while that's technically true right now, it doesn't appear things will remain that way. Not only has Whalestork said they intend to charge for open beta access, there is evidence mounting that they may in fact be trying to tunnel users away from Steam to avoid Steam's refund policies. Additionally, they appear to be pushing their own currency in the hopes of using that specific currency as a way to make any and all purchases related to the game. This could possibly include the game itself. If that's true, this would mean you would be paying for access to a digital currency, and that currency is controlled by Whalestork, which means there are no safeguards for protecting your money because you'll always get the currency, but you may not always have access to the things that you're using the currency to purchase. Digging deeper, there's actually some weirdness surrounding whether or not the player base in Kara Online was even real or mostly just paid actors and bots. And furthermore, remember back earlier in the video we mentioned H2O investments? Well, if real, they are supposedly in no way related to another company known as H2O Asset Management, according to them, which is a company that is balls deep in lawsuits and scandals. H2O Investment, however, went from being an investor for Whalestork alongside a few other companies to their website just not existing anymore. All that being said, the well runs even deeper. If you want to look into it yourself, I'll leave links to everything down below. The gist of it all is, it seems the more people look into things, the more weird stuff keeps popping up, and honestly guys, the more the game starts to look like a scam. Listen, I would love to be proven wrong here. At a glance, the Quinfall looked kind of cool, looked like at the very least it'd be a few months of passable fun, but once the Reddit investigators have your scent, they become bloodhounds at sniffing out your bullshit. And I think they have Whalestork scent, but only time will tell. So let me know, what are your thoughts on this crazy situation? I know I'm a little late on this, so we'll get through the games that actually released already in the first part of the month, and then after that, we'll talk about the upcoming release. First up is The Night is Grey. This is developed by Whalestork Interactive. This is a point-and-click adventure where you play as Graham, a lone forest dweller who finds a lost girl who needs your help. This is out on PC and Mac. Next up is The Descent. This is developed by Celeritas Games. The Descent is a horror walking sim game set in the Rockwell Mine where you play as an investigator uncovering the mysteries of this town. This is out on PC only. Next up is Archaelund. Developed by 4Dimension Games, Archaelund is a blended first-person high fantasy RPG, and to spice things up, the combat is done in a top-down tactical strategy format. Archaelund is currently out on PC. Next up is War Hospital, developed by Brave Lamb Studio and published by Nacon. War Hospital is an isometric management and strategy military medical sim set in a World War I British hospital where instead of playing as frontline soldiers, you take on the role as the medical corps. War Hospital is out on PC, PS5, and Series X and S. By now, I'm sure you've all heard of Palworld. Palworld is developed and published by Pocket Pair Incorporated. Palworld is a Pokemon-style creature capture game, and it's mixed with a survival game. It has been generally well received, boasting 3 million copies sold in only its first 40 hours. It is currently out on Game Pass, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. Next up is Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Developed and published by Ubisoft, Prince of Persia is a 2.5D side-scrolling platformer / Metroidvania where you'll use your time-warping powers to traverse the world and take down foes. This is currently out on PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and Xbox One. Now, let's talk about games that are coming up soon. Next up, we have Stargate Timekeepers, developed by Slytherin Ltd. Stargate Timekeepers is a top-down, real-time tactics sci-fi time loop strategy game set in the Stargate SG-1 universe. It's coming out on PC on January 23rd. Next up is Enshrouded, developed by Keen Games. Enshrouded is a co-op open-world survival action RPG set in a vast, corrupted, fog-shrouded world where you will seek to bring clarity. Enshrouded comes out January 24th on PC. And finally, we have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, developed by, and I'll probably butcher this, Gotoku Studio, published by Sega. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is an action-adventure JRPG continuing the journey of Ichiban Kazuka set in the Yakuza universe's takes on Japan and Hawaii. Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth comes out on January 25th and is releasing on PC, PS5, PS4, Series X and S, and Xbox One. And there you have it. Thank you so much for joining us for the 3rd episode of AZTV. If you want to know more about anything that we talked about today, links to everything will be in the description below. And until next time, stay chill, keep it real. Peace.